So the state of the poultry industry right now is actually quite interesting. Maybe interesting is not the right word to use because it's honestly quite pathetic and painful. Now, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, number one, feeds are super expensive. And number two, the cost of the poultry products, that's eggs, and the broiler chickens themselves are not as equally expensive. And what that means is that for the same output, you're getting considerably less money inside your pocket. You're putting in way more money in order to get anything, and then when you reach the market, you're barely getting anything. Now I can tell that because I'll use my small layer farm as an example. Just 1,000 birds. 2-3 years back, I was able to make 50% profit from the birds that I had, with even less production. At that point, I was probably doing 83-84% production, and at that production, I was able to get 50% net profit. Currently, with the same number of birds, at even higher production, because my birds are probably about 37-38 weeks, and I'm getting 92% production, but I can barely hit, 30% net profit. I can't. And guess what the problem has been? Maize. The price of maize. You see, for us as poultry farmers, maize, which is actually corn, I believe, to the Americans, makes up at least 60% in bulk of your feed. When you're mixing feed, if you're mixing 1 ton of feed, at around 60%, up to 60% can be maize. Sometimes it is less, sometimes it is more, but it's either maize or a byproduct of maize that makes up about 60% of your feed. And recently, over the past few years, this year, last year, the rains have been terrible. Really, really, really terrible. There's been very long dry spells, and sometimes when the rains come, the rains are too heavy, and that means that a lot of people haven't harvested good yields of maize. And the problem that has brought is that the prices of maize have skyrocketed. Something never seen before. For us here at the farm, we are paying at least 3 times for maize the price that we were paying just a while back, Last year at around this point, we were paying 3 times less. Right now it is 3 times more. And guess what? The chickens in those buildings, you see in the background, you can see the poultry buildings. Nicely spaced out. And those have our broiler breeders. The chickens in those buildings don't give a damn. They don't care, yeah? They have to eat their food, and if they don't eat their food, they're not going to lay eggs. They won't lay eggs, you won't make any money. And I know that a lot of farmers in Uganda are in the same position. They're in the same complication. They're wondering, what on earth do I do? And if you're farming for the very first time, you had never done poultry farming, you've been watching Dr. Daniel's videos, then you're starting to farm right now, hey, I feel really, really sorry for some people because they are starting to imagine that this is how the business is. It's really complicated. You can't make any money. Getting feeds is complicated. And I know that the complication is not only in Uganda. I know that world over, whether it be in Europe, whether it's South America, all parts of the world, the complication of very high feed prices is actually the same. People are suffering with feed prices. The feed prices are too high, not sustainable for a lot of people. Before I continue with the tips, I want to give some of you an opportunity to win some Farm Up chicks. Here at Farm Up, our layer hatches have been way better than expected. You see, there is usually one of two things that companies like us do when we are selling chicks. We either overbook, and then when the birds hatch, there's some people who won't be able to get, and they will have to be pushed to next week. But that's not something that we would love to do. A lot of other people do that, but we do the other option. We underbook and ensure that everyone gets their birds. But then occasionally the hatches are too big that we have quite a number of extra birds. And so what we want to do is that I want to get a few of you to be in line to take up those few extra birds when the opportunity arises. So if you would love to be one of those few lucky people, come on, just give us a phone call. I'll leave the numbers in the description below. And then if we do have a few extra birds on a few hatches, we'll give you a phone call. The idea is that you just need to be ready anytime, because we could call you and tell you, hey, the birds are tomorrow, because when the birds hatch, you can't keep them for so long. So you need to be ready. We'll give you a call and then you'll be ready to pick up the birds. A nice opportunity for you, right? to not get out of business. So come on, give us the phone call. I actually personally do know a lot of people who have given up on the business. They have left the business. They're not interested in farming anymore. They have left the whole poultry thing. So what do you do to remain relevant? Remain in the business when things turn around, because inevitably the things are going to turn around. One of two things is going to happen. Either the prices of maize are going to drop too much at some point, because clearly, like you can see, over the past 3 seasons, we haven't gotten the best maize harvest, but we are still planting maize. This is what happens when you're a farmer. It's difficult for someone who has farmed and they have actually gotten some money out of farming and they know how it works, for them to give up, because there is always hope. So it's clear that people are still planting maize, and because the prices have been too high, for the farmers, that's like the perfect thing. The people who plant maize, for them that's like the perfect thing. And I know that a lot of people have gone all in with planting maize. A lot of people have planted maize, and at some point, despite the fact that it keeps carrying on like this, at some point it's going to hit low, because there'll be too much maize on the market. The prices are going to really drop, and when the prices drop, then you, who actually has the birds, will have a very low cost of production. At some point you'll have a very low cost of production, but hey, a lot of people are running out of business. You see, currently in the towns that I live in, I supply the eggs in a lot of those areas, and I can assure you that I barely have any competition. People are moving from left, right and center, far and close, to come and get eggs from me, because they can't get eggs from the places they used to get eggs from. People have run out of business. People don't have money. A lot of people who had poultry farms stopped their poultry farms. Most commonly, or the most likely reason, is because they didn't run their poultry business as well. There's a lot of guys whose farms I've visited, and at the points where the prices of maize started to drop, they went with completely bad feeds. You know, the person had a layer farm. Layer farms are usually the ones that are the worst hit when it comes to, you know, high feed costs, because for broilers, you're keeping the birds for a really short time. Maybe 5 weeks and then you're done. Then you can wait for, you know, when you gather some money, you keep them again for 4-5 weeks and you're done. For the layers, it's extended 1 year, 2 years that you're keeping these birds. And so you really feel the prices, you feel the fluctuations, you feel it when the costs go up and they go down. It can really hit hard on a layer farmer. So I personally do know a lot of layer farmers who have actually given up on the poultry business, and it's been very unfortunate, because a lot of them, when the prices of the feeds went up, they decided to give the birds really bad feed. And when you give the bird bad feed, it will not give you anything. You know, if the feeds are really expensive and you continue to give the birds the good feed, maybe you might be able to handle the cost of buying the feed, because the birds will lay at a really good percentage. For example, me, for whom the birds are laying at 92% production, you know, really they are laying at what I expect them to lay at. I'm still able to buy the birds feed despite the very high cost of the feed. You know, it's 3 times up what I would have been paying at this point last year, but still I can handle the cost of the feed, because at least I'm working at cost. Yeah, but there is people who go in to try to save a bit of money. You know, they get terrible maize, bad ingredients, but then the effect of that is that the birds are going to drop in production. They will drop down to 60-50%, and at 60-50%, trust me, you won't even be able to buy the worst feeds you can get on the market. You won't, because you're playing with the biology and the functionality and the physiology of the chicken. It just won't give you the eggs that you need, and so you won't even be able to function at cost. And what that means is that when an opportunity comes in, that for example the prices of feeds really drop, or the cost of the eggs or the cost of chickens really goes high, because most of the players have gotten out of the market, you won't be able to handle it. You won't be able to supply anything, because hey, you're out of business. You offlaid your birds, or you sold off your birds, because you're unable to feed them. So yes, certainly at some point the things are going to turn around, but how do you remain relevant? Hey, the only way you remain relevant is by, number one, not giving up on the quality of feeds. Of course, you can look for alternative feeds. I'm not saying you need to avoid going for alternative feeds. No, you know, you need to think outside the box. But there's some things that just can't work. Yeah, you can't give the birds poor quality feeds and expect them to give you good results. That's going to keep you out of business. Certainly going to kick you out of business. Even if the market was okay, even if the feeds were, you know, cheap, even if everything was cheap, if the quality of the feeds is actually bad, then you're going to get kicked out of market, even if there is very high demand of your product. So make sure that you maintain the quality of your feed. You could look for alternative sources, but you have to ensure that the alternative sources are not deficient on the kinds of nutrients that the birds need, because if that's what's going to happen, then you're going to be in trouble because you won't get the production that you need. The second thing is that this should be teaching us to plan as poultry farmers. When it comes to future times, we need to plan in terms of our cash flow. Yeah, you need to think about the fact that you could have bad times like this, because at times like this, everyone is going to run out, and when everyone runs out, you're left with the opportunity. How do you ensure that you're the remaining player in the game? How do you ensure, for example, me in my area, I'm the only one left? Yeah, because everyone left. Everyone can't handle supplying the eggs, so I'm the only one left. I can sell at a high price and still be able to get some profit. But what that ensures is that I can remain in the business, and then when everything changes, the prices of maize drop to really, really low, I'll be making a mad living. And yes, it's at times like this, when the margins are really small, that there is really no room for error. You can't play around with particular things. The quality of the bird is very important. You can't get a poor quality bird right now and then you expect to make money. No, it's impossible. So you have to be very certain that you're getting the right bird, the very, very correct quality of the bird. So don't just go to anyone over there and just get birds from there. No, come on, come to Farm Up. We'll give you the very best birds to ensure that your chances of succeeding are as high as possible. And if you do match that with the right principles, getting the right feed, making sure that the farm is managed well, ensuring that there is good biosecurity, ensuring that you plan your cash flow, then you'll be around when the rest of the people have disappeared. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, that way you never miss an upload. Lots of love. Bye.